Hello YouTube, Shintigercurl here, that dude in the straw hat, bringing you yet another awesome video. I realize it's been a while since I've put up a video, because if you've watched my previous video, you know that I'm not exactly in the best of health. I have a very, very bad abscess in my mouth, and pretty much I've spent the last couple of days, if not a few weeks, spitting out pus and blood and gargling with salt water and taking pain medication. When I'm not pretty much doped out of my mind, I'm in agonizing pain. But I felt well enough to actually do a audio or vlog video, if you want to call it that. I don't know what to call this one, but anyway, I figured since everybody else was doing it, I wanted to put my 2 cents into it. You know what I mean? This video, I mean, if you couldn't tell by the title, couldn't tell by the thumbnail, this is a review, my personal review of Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. Yes, the next directorial movie done by Zack Snyder, who directed Man of Steel, which was a mixed bag, to say the least, a complete shit pile, to say the worst. I liked Man of Steel. I really did. I loved Man of Steel. But anyway, everyone else, all the major internet reviewers, such as Jeremy Johns, Chris Stuckerman, the Angry Video Game Nerd, Angry Joe, I think the Nostalgia Critic may have done one, I mean Doug Walker, not the Nostalgia Critic himself, but Doug Walker. Who else? Epic Voiceovers, the Smeghead from Cinema Excrement, and quite a few others have delved into this movie, and I've pretty much heard all the reviews of it. Well, the reviews that I actually consider, not the ones that, well, the professional ones. They can go suck a dick. It's the internet ones that I really care about, because they speak to me. They are nerds. They understand how these movies are supposed to be viewed. So, and I understand all the criticisms, all of it going in. Now, before I start, I just want to make a note of it. A couple of things. One, I am not a DC hater. In fact, some of my favorite comic books, events and storylines happen to be from DC, particularly Crisis on Infinite Earths, Infinite Crisis, which I love, Blackest Night, which is still to this day my favorite all-time crossover event. Thank you, Jeff Johns. And Court of Owls, probably the only story from the New 52 that I've read and actually like. It's a Batman story, Court of Owls. Look it up. 2, I'm not a Marvel fanboy. Sure, I enjoy a lot of the Marvel movies, but I can recognize when some of them have been missteps, like the Ghost Rider movies, Blade Trinity, Force Stick. I didn't care for the first Thor movie. Not a fan of the second Iron Man movie. And I thought Amazing Spider-Man was okay. Mixed bag. So yeah, I'm not here to suck Marvel's dick. Again, 3, I am well versed in these characters as well as this storyline. I know that this particular movie takes more cues from Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns that came out in the 80s. If you have never seen or read The Dark Knight Returns, you cannot consider yourself a Batman fan. So go out and read it, or better yet, watch the awesome 2-part animated movie starring Frank Welker as Batman. That's right, Batman was being played by RoboCop. Yeah. So anyway, I'm just going to get this out of the way. All your hates and criticisms aside, I know what I'm talking about. You don't have to listen to me. This is just my opinion. This is what I thought going into the movie. So after hearing all the reviews, I didn't touch the spoilers. So I just went in there and I just went into it as a complete blank slate. I'm going in this as a fan of the comics, as a movie fan, a comic book movie fan, what have you. So, what did I think of the movie? Well, first off, let's go to the basic premise. The story starts off with a sort of retelling of Batman's origin, which was kind of a waste of time because we already know Batman's origin. Christopher Nolan did it just fine. Then we go to the events of Man of Steel, where we find Bruce Wayne, played by Ben Affleck, in Metropolis when all that shit went down. In fact, there was one of his buildings was destroyed during the big throwdown between Zod and Superman. In fact, a lot of his employees and a few of his friends actively die in this. And there's even a scene where Bruce Wayne actually lifts a beam off a security guard's legs. His legs are all fucked up and it's laid out like linguine and shit. And then we fast forward 18 months later, where the Batman is still active in Gotham, or they call him the Gotham Bat in this one. A little bit more brutal than before. And Superman is still active, but there comes the question of how much power or authority he should have because, well, he's the most powerful man in the world. So this is the basic premise of Batman not really trusting Superman with all that power, and which leads up to the big climactic showdown between Batman and Superman. Now, before I get to that, let's talk about the portrayals. Henry Cavill returns as the Man of Steel, Superman, and he does a serviceable job. Not perfect, but serviceable. I mean, in the first movie, I could give his performance because I could give a little leeway to his performance because he was more inexperienced, both as in the role of Superman and as Superman himself, because this is his first time in the Superman suit. This is Superman's first outing, so there was going to be some flubs in here. But this one, it felt a little dry, like a little flat. His Clark Kent could have used some work. I mean, the main thing about Clark's identity as both Clark Kent and Superman is that as Clark Kent, he's supposed to be this meek, shy, a bit clumsy buffoon, but with a heart of gold. This one, there's really no difference between Clark Kent and Superman, because all it is just the glasses. He doesn't really do anything particularly different to make people who don't believe that he is the Man of Steel. Now, I don't know if this is an unfair comparison, but I feel that Christopher Reeves actually pulled it off a little better. When he was Superman, he was upright, confident. He spoke with a deep voice, and he always commanded respect wherever he went. As Clark Kent, he hunched over. His clothes were a little bit slovenly. He stuttered a lot. He was fumbly. He was clumsy on purpose because, hey, who's going to believe that the most powerful man in the world would disguise himself as such? But I know it's not fair to judge Henry Cavill's Superman, Clark Kent, against Christopher Reeve, who was one of the definitive men of the role. But that's just how I feel. Now on to the bigger question: Ben Affleck as Superman. Ben Affleck as Batman. I'm sorry. People were telling me that he killed it as Batman. I wasn't sure about this. I was going to judge it for myself. A lot of people were not going to be very well receiving of a guy who played Daredevil or who was in Geely or any other stuff. They were not going to believe that Ben Affleck, of all people, could play Batman. Those haters are eating their words because Ben Affleck was magnificent in the role of the Caped Crusader. He played all the parts that needed to be played for the character of Batman to be realized. He played billionaire playboy philanthropist Bruce Wayne. He played Bruce Wayne in the Batcave. And he played Batman as this intimidating force. Now, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. The one thing that every fan has been saying that they've not been liking. Spoiler alert, Batman kills in this movie. That's right. And he uses guns too. So Batman uses guns. Now, there's been a bit of contention with this about whether or not, I've actually gotten into a conversation with a friend of a friend on Facebook that he says, oh, Batman should be badass and kill everybody, and then he won't have to worry about the Joker. Like, look, the prime mythos of Batman, I know Batman has killed in his original Golden Age incarnation of the Caped Crusader before he went camp. Now, the primary source material for this was always the post-crisis, pre-Flashpoint version of Batman who never took a life. He didn't kill unless he couldn't avoid it. That was his thing. It spread across to all the mediums. Look to an example being the animated movie Under the Red Hood, where Jason Todd, who was killed by the Joker, brought back by Ra's al Ghul, and then there's a scene towards the end where he has the Joker tied up, and he's like, well, but Batman, I could understand you not wanting to kill, but why don't you break your one rule for me? He killed me. He took me away from you. Why didn't you do it? Is it too hard? And Batman gives this incredible monologue done by Bruce Greenwood about saying that how it would be too easy for him to kill. He has the skills, he has the know-how, he can easily kill, but it's a slippery slope. He would go to a place that he could never come back from. He would become what he fights. And also part of the reason is that Joker wants him to kill him. He wants to break Batman's one rule. He wants to corrupt the incorruptible Dark Knight, who never breaks his rule. Similar to in the Dark Knight trilogy by Christopher Nolan. The Joker notes that he would never kill him. He could have just let Joker splat by falling on that multi-story fall, but he's like, you just couldn't do it. You couldn't kill me. And he went on and on like you really are truly incorruptible. And he wanted to see just how far he could take it to get him to be corrupted. That's the point of the people saying that Batman shouldn't kill. If you don't understand that part about Batman, then you really are not a Batman fan. If you want a superhero who kills, go look at the Punisher. Not hating the Punisher. It's just you can't. Batman doesn't kill. There it is. But I know that he kills in this movie. There's moments when I thought, okay, that guy could have survived, and I'm like, no, they're dead. I'm not gonna say what the moments were. I'm not gonna spoil it for you, but the reason I don't like it, but I can understand it because of what they were going for. This incarnation of Batman is supposedly based off Frank Miller's Batman from The Dark Knight Returns, or The Dark Knight Strikes Back. Well, I prefer Dark Knight Returns anyway. But anyway, in The Dark Knight Returns, Batman is older, he's more grizzled, he's more brutal, willing to bend the rules, willing to take a life if it needs to be. He is brutal. If you've never seen that version of Batman, he's fucking brutal. And this one is based off that one. So I can understand it. I don't like it, but I can understand it. Alright, Amy Adams returns as Lois Lane. She does her Lois Lane thing of getting saved by Superman all the damn time. Diane Lane returns as Martha Kent. And she's always a joy. Another surprise is Jeremy Irons. Mr. Jeremy Irons as the butler Alfred Pennyworth, Batman's confidant and butler. And I love this version of Alfred. I thought no one could top Michael Caine as Alfred. I had to say, Jeremy Irons, he may have done it. He was, of course, the moral compass to Batman. He's his confidant, the man who keeps him grounded and pointed in the right direction, but also willing to be snarky and just tell those snide little jokes. He is the main source of humor for this movie, and I enjoy it. I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred. Love him. Let's see. And of course, we got to go to another elephant in the room. Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Now, originally, I wasn't really sold on Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor. Sure, that there was that one picture of him that he was bald-headed as a mugshot of him being put in prison, and that does happen in this movie, and he did kind of look the part of Lex Luthor, but the trailers didn't endear me to him. And after seeing the performance, I have to say, God damn, they made the wrong move with this one. I mean, Jesse Eisenberg, I was thinking about this, and I realized what this was. Jesse Eisenberg was playing the Joker, playing Lex Luthor. He was just spastic out there, just moving right, just going left and right and left. And I know this isn't really Lex Luthor. This is his son, Alexander Luthor. But he's still Lex Luthor. But it just didn't feel like Lex Luthor. Like, it just didn't. I will always say, for my money, the best Lex Luthors have always been, it's a toss-up between the DCAU's Lex Luthor, played magnificently by Clancy Brown, and Smallville's Lex Luthor, played by Chris Rosenbaum. Those were the Lex Luthors. They were suave. They were cunning, manipulative, egomaniacal, but dangerous. These were the Lex Luthors that I grew up watching. Unfortunately, Jesse Eisenberg seems to be trying to take cues from Gene Hackman's portrayal of Lex Luthor in the first Superman films, opposite Christopher Reeve, where he played a bombastic criminal mastermind. Kevin Spacey was good as Lex Luthor, but unfortunately, this just feels like a lesser attempt to call back to those other ones. I felt the genius there, but unfortunately, it just didn't work for me. This was a total miscast. Jesse Eisenberg was not the right person to be doing Lex Luthor. In fact, when I was listening to him talk throughout the whole movie, I was imagining what would Chris Rosenbaum would say, how it would sound if Chris Rosenbaum was playing this role, or the words coming out of Clancy Brown's mouth. And I would realize that even the most bombastic of these speeches and dialogues shot out by Lex Luthor in this film would sound infinitely more menacing and badass coming out of either of the other Lex Luthors that I mentioned, either Rosenbaum or Brown. So yeah, that's that. Let's see. Let's talk about Gal Gadot, or Gadot, or whichever one it is, as Wonder Woman. They don't really go much into her backstory. She's just kind of there, but I liked her. Some people say she's too skinny. I'm not going to judge. I mean, she looks like Wonder Woman. She got the whole warrior princess down thing. She just looked the part and acted the part. My only problem is her accent tended to fade in and out in some dialogues. Like, she talks in a certain kind of accent. I can't really identify it. And then it falls in and falls out. It's slightly noticeable, but it's there. But yeah, but she was a welcome addition. Unfortunately, Jason Momoa, I can't really pronounce his name. I loved him in Stargate Atlantis, and now he was in this movie only for like a quick screenshot of him underwater, doing a stupid little pose with his trident, and I don't really. I hope I know that they were in this movie. They were teasing the Justice League because they showed scenes from of the Flash and Aquaman and Cyborg. Yes, Cyborg is kind of in this movie, but I won't say what. Now, as for the movie overall, it really didn't feel. The editing was just sloppy. I mean, the first the first 2/3 of the movie, the scenes didn't feel connected. It just seemed to move too fast, jumping from scene to scene. The editing was just awful all over the place. They really should have built up. They should have really stuck to scenes more than just jumping all over the place. And I'll give Zack Snyder credit. He is a master when it comes to visualization. I mean, there were a lot of little Easter eggs and sight gags in this movie, which is part of his style. Excuse me. It was just part of his style, so I give him that. But telling a cohesive story is not one of his strong suits. I just felt bored for the more half of the movie. There were some scenes where Superman were doing stuff, but they were more afterwards. Like, we see him reacting to the scenes. We don't see him actually doing the stuff. Like, he saves a girl from a burning building that we saw on TV, but we don't actually see him go into the burning building and get her out. We just see him out there with the burning building, or saving some flood victims, or saving a rocket and shit like that. The parts with Superman, the parts that relate to Superman with Clark and Lois and Perry and the Daily Planet and Metropolis, those were not very interesting. The parts with Batman and everything connected to him, those were pretty good. They were interesting. Those caught my attention. But mostly I was bored through most of this. But that's not what you want to hear about. You want to hear about the fight, don't you? The big clash. Cape versus Cape. The Dark Knight versus the Last Son of Krypton. The Man of Tomorrow versus the Cape Crusader. And I gotta say, it was pretty damn cool. Batman, of course, did what Batman did. He prepped. He prepped like a sumbitch, and I like the fact that the armor he uses for the fight is a direct is a direct copy of Batman's armor from the Dark Knight Returns. And it's a very, very cool costume. That armor is awesome. The fight makes sense because Batman would use his prep to his advantage. I'm not going to spoil what he uses in his prep. You have to watch that for yourself. There was some nice back and forth. It was just a nice little fight you would expect to have between two of comic boom's oldest and most famous superheroes. Now, then after this, we go in. There's some stuff that happens. And we segue into Doomsday. For those of you who don't know, Doomsday is of Kryptonian origin. He is actually the creature that kills Superman. That's right. In the comics, well, at least before Flashpoint, Doomsday was the one who offed Superman in that famous event, the death of Superman. I still own that comic. I still love that comic of watching him go up against a mindless, unstoppable juggernaut who he knows he has to kill. And its origin in this movie is kind of just lambasted in, especially his name. The name of Doomsday was always sort of a one-off thing. He was named by a B-list superhero named Booster Gold in the comics, who, when he fought him, Superman caught him, and he asked him, "What's going on? What's going on, Booster?" It's like Doomsday down there, and that's where his name came from. The way his name came about in this one just felt forced, like really, really forced. But the fight between Doomsday against Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman was awesome, very awesome. And there was yet another scene that was a call back to The Dark Knight Rises when there was a nuclear explosion and Superman gets shriveled up into like this little old mummy man and shit. So yeah, that was cool. And the aftermath of that fight, of course, I'm not going to spoil it. I'm not going to make another spoiler video. If you want spoilers, go to Jeremy John's video or Angry Joe. They have spoiler videos. I'm not going to do one. I don't have the time and I don't have the energy to do it. But overall, the movie wrapped up nicely. So, my overall thoughts of it? It was okay. Not super duper awesome. Not, oh my god, this is terribly sucks, like Fant 4-Stick sucks. It was just okay. I mean, there's a lot I liked about it. Ben Affleck as Batman was awesome. I love Jeremy Irons as Alfred. The fight scenes were incredible. The battles were epic. Gal Gadot killed it as Wonder Woman, despite what people say about her being too skinny. Screw you, body image motherfuckers. But the problem it was just the editing was just bad. The pacing was terrible all over the place. A lot of the actors, some of them just didn't feel like they were giving it enough. And the overall reasons for Batman and Superman to fight, they didn't flesh it out well enough. I mean, I felt they did more time fleshing out Batman than they really did Superman. And I really wanted to see what Superman was really thinking and his overall actions. They did kind of delve into his reasonings behind why the world doesn't really see him as a hero after what shit happened in Metropolis, but I really wish they would have gone into that more, especially the relationship between Clark and Lois, which is kindly underdeveloped. I really wish they would have given it more time. But overall, it's enjoyable, entertaining, but it's still a very, very flawed movie. And I'm not even comparing, now, like I said, I'm not comparing this to Marvel movies. This is not a Marvel movie. This is a DC movie. This is their first real attempt to create a DC universe in the cinematic world. And it does a decent enough job to tease you with it. But unfortunately, the first 2/3 of it, I really wasn't watching the screen. But at the moment, the movie, but as soon as you hit Batman fighting Superman, all that beyond, you're going to have a good time. You get what you pay for. Batman, Superman, action, kicking the shit out of each other, all that good stuff. Jesse Eisenberg, I love you, but you did not get Lex. You were not Lex Luthor. And it doesn't help that the very last image we see of Lex Luthor behind bars with a long trail of snot coming out of his nose. Clancy Brown would be ashamed. So yeah, you can still after watching all the reviews, I gave my thoughts. I heard everyone give their thoughts, and I'm like, I'm still gonna watch it. I watched it. It was okay. That's all I can say. And I'm not trying to not offend nobody. That's just my honest opinion. It's okay. You can think a movie is just okay without saying, oh my god, it's terrible, or oh my god, it sucks. This is like Amazing Spider-Man 2 to me. I thought the movie was okay. I didn't think it was anything amazing. It wasn't certainly any better than anything from the Raimi trilogy, save for Spider-Man 3, and that was hot garbage. But I didn't think it was oh my god, awesome. Same with this one. And if you thought it was okay, and if you liked it, that's your prerogative. This is just my feelings about it. So yeah, thank you for taking your time out to listen to me talk about this movie. And hold on. Sorry, I had to spit a little pus out. My abscess is draining, so I gotta wrap this up. So hopefully, if you like this video, you already know what to do. I'm not gonna bore you with the details. So until next time, it's been Shintigercurl, that dude in the straw hat, saying good day.